back to another insightful and exciting episode of Me and My Health Up. I'm your host, Anthony Hartcher, a clinical nutritionist and lifestyle medicine specialist. The purpose of this podcast is to enhance and enlighten your well-being. And today we are talking on the topic of fertility, and in particular we're talking about male infertility or male fertility. And we're going to be interviewing, well, certainly I am going to be interviewing two amazing guests who are experts on this topic of fertility, and that is Bilge and Valerie. They've written a book called I Am Magic, and it's all focused and centered around fertility and the problems that we're facing today in modern society and what we need to do to fix it. So without much further ado, I'd love to welcome you into this insightful discussion on fertility with Bilge and Valerie. Welcome on the Me and My Health Up podcast. How are you, Bilge and Valerie? How are you both?
Awesome.
Very well, thank you. How are you today, Anthony?
I'm fantastic, Valerie. How are you?
Very good.
It's a delight. You're the first experts on fertility that I'm interviewing, so I'm as delighted as what you are to be on here.
Well, experts will certainly experts on many topics and have our story that we'll be delighted to share. But yeah, very excited to be with you today.
Yeah, and I really like to start with the backstory, Valerie. So all the Me and My Health Up listeners have all heard the backstory of my guests on the show, and I'd love you to share your backstory as to how you arrived at what you're doing today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Bilge and I, we have, our own kind of stories, how we came together eventually, so then ending in a common goal. But my story with fertility started when I was 35, so a couple of years ago, and I just felt that I needed to know more about my body, because as a 35-year-old woman, you do start thinking, about the ticking clock, and society says you should be doing this and that. So I said to myself, well, at least I want to know what the situation looks like, so then I can, make my own decisions. They're based on information and facts. And so I, realized then after a few tests that I had premature ovarian insufficiency. And that just meant that my whole fertility was unfortunately more to what we would expect a person or a woman of 50 plus to look like. And so I just had a few decisions to make a lot earlier than, maybe the average would need to do. And for me, that meant that I decided to go down a social freezing or egg freezing path. I tried to preserve, for me, as many options to hopefully make a decision a little bit later on. I, went through a couple of social freezing cycles, and then decided that, this was it. I also mentally, it was mainly mentally quite a drain. Physically, fortunately, not as much. But for me, I had reached the kind of optimum point for me to kind of move on with my life and focus on other things that make me happy and help me enjoy life. So that was my story.
Wow. And how did you meet Bilge? Because you shared with this pre-recording that you met her via a TEDx talk. So tell us a little bit about that TEDx talk you went to and how you were so inspired by the message that Bilge was sharing.
Absolutely. So that was, a couple of years ago, like maybe 3 years ago in summer. I went to a TEDx event that was focused on women and women's stories. And there was Bilge, and she was talking about infertility and the workplace and all sorts of related elements. And it was the first time ever that I had seen or heard anyone speak about this topic in a public realm, just, even like within a friend group or anything, just anyone in public other than me. So that had a huge impact on me. And I decided that I had to go and speak to this person who I thought was absolutely incredible. Yeah. And then she told me about the idea that she had to write a book, and should we do this together? And I had no idea what that would entail, but I think neither did she. But we embarked on this adventure, and here we are a couple of years later, and I still think she's absolutely amazing. So here we are.
Wow. And Bilge, I would love to hear what you, briefly, the message you were sharing at the TEDx talk.
Oh, sure. It's about we named it Coming Out of the Fertility Closet. And that's about the isolation that singles or couples that go through when they have a fertility issue. It can be over the years, it can be short amount of time, it doesn't matter. It's an emotional burden, financial burden. It's all physical burden as well, It's such a strong life change. and it's very hard to share with people. And that's what the talk was about, and how we can change it, how we can change the society.
Yeah, because I even think as an observer, it's hard to approach the topic, even if you have a really close relationship with the couple that you are sort of perceiving that they might be having some issues. So this is really interesting because I think it's difficult on both sides. So there's people that are sort of observing and knowing, but not knowing how to talk. It's a bit like, mental health was, I would say, mental health maybe 20 years ago was that, people weren't talking about it. They didn't really understand it, and it was a taboo subject to talk about. And so I'm thinking it's probably similar with the fertility side of things, right? But even now, I don't hear of many people talking about it other than this conversation we're having today.
Absolutely. It's becoming
Absolutely.
more and more, especially with social media. People are more sharing from their life. We see more stories coming out, very personal stories. So that's a great change. But for men, it's still kind of lagging behind, I would say.
Yeah, totally. I think when people think about fertility or infertility, the automatic thought is still, oh, there's something wrong, with the woman, because as women, we carry the baby. So of course, it has to be there, but it takes two, and there are just as many reasons. I think, it's 50%, the man or the woman, but sometimes, depending on the stats, a third of issues are with the woman, a third with the man, and the third with both of them. So it's not, predominantly one or the other. And you're right, like we should be talking about, again, both sides, because it takes two.
Yeah, so in terms of, like, obviously, Valerie, you've got lived experience of what it's like to go through a fertility struggle or concern. And Bilge, what's your connection with it?
It is a personal decision how I think we need to look at fertility. So I didn't struggle with fertility, so to say. It's just when I decided to get pregnant, and we discussed this with my husband, I realized there's so much out there we don't know about our bodies, how we can make informed decisions about fertility, even starting from one step behind. Do I want to have a child? And sometimes you think, oh, I'll have it when I have the right partner, when I'm, I have time. People are having over 40, having kids nowadays. So, I'll take it easy. So you just wait. And then when the time comes, you want to have your kid with your partner. Surprise, surprise, there are issues out there. And okay, we'll go the IVF route. The success rate of IVF is 10% in a given normal couple. So it might not be that easy. And also financially, it's very tough place if you're not supported by your insurance. It's suddenly 10Ks, 20Ks are flying around that you need to spend. So those decisions shouldn't be taken lightly, and it should be a bit more informed. And I realized that while we were going through, okay, let's have a baby moment. And then most of the burden stays with the woman. I realized man is more easygoing because the society teaches us it's women who carries baby, so they carry also the health consequences of the baby, which is not true. It's really 50-50. Sperm has its consequences that it brings with genetics and epigenetics, and egg does as well. It's just the woman is the carrier. Now knowing all of this, if I go back, I didn't know many of the things, and I didn't even know that we have this fertile window of just 7 days, 6 to 7 days in a month. And I was super surprised. How come I don't know this? I had my biology classes. I had talked to women all my life, and this was new to me at the end of my 20s. So that was eye-opening, and I was like, no, we have to do something about it. There are women silently, mostly women, struggling out there for years, and it affects their life, it affects their career, it affects their relationships, their marriages. So I thought this is a fight we need to fight for. So there was the book idea, and I also started a business beforehand to fight the monopoly of pregnancy test kits in Switzerland. So I was already in this woman's health journey, and the book idea came along. Then I spoke at the TEDx, and that's where I met Valerie almost 3 years ago. Now I'm 40 years old, and I feel even more that what's changing with human body, we need to be informed much, much more earlier.
Yeah, so the mess. Oh, sorry, Valerie, you go. You've got
Yeah,
something
and I
to
just
share.
wanted to add that, the male part, I think that's also very much a societal element that plays in there, because men maybe take it easy because they don't, like, in tendency, they don't really go as much to the doctors, get things checked. It's just not something, that a man does. So depending on what society, we grow up in. So also then, the stigma might be even stronger, also because of how men communicate with their environment, with their surroundings. As women, we're a lot more open. We love words. We love sharing words. Maybe as a man, also our generation at least, men are not as open in sharing their feelings and worries and issues. And so there's a lot more known about it, because there's a lot less said about it, even though, yeah, it should be.
Yeah, and I mean, how do we go about changing that? You mentioned the influence that social media can take, and people are a lot more open on sharing their stories and talking about it. I think that's probably really good from a women's perspective, but how do we change the stigma in men? Like it's such a big challenge. I think it's similar to the mental health challenge that
Yeah.
society faced.
Well, I think, like with anything that needs to, kind of break through or change, we need pioneers. So I would ask the question to you, like, what if you were, in that situation, like, what would you wish for? Like, what would you suggest?
So as a clinician, what I like is, so women will come forth to me and tell me about that they want to fall pregnant, and I will encourage the man to join the consultations, because I wanted it. It's a joint journey, right? It
Yeah,
needs to be a joint journey from the very beginning,
absolutely.
and because there's that societal norm sort of thing that it's the women, right? And hence the women take the ownership. And I think even they might encourage the men, but the men, are quite resistant. That they think, oh no, that's your thing, Because if I look at my father, like, so my dad's generation, which is the baby boomers, right?
Yeah.
And this is nothing towards the baby boomers. It's just what it is, right? And obviously it's been passed down from generations before that, right? But their idea was like, even like the whole birthing and child raising was a woman's responsibility, right? Now that's changed a bit, right? So men are a lot more active with the raising of children. But I think where you're both coming from is that men need to get involved earlier. Yes, beyond this sort of, the woman's finished breastfeeding, that dad can help out and all this. And you do see dads helping out a lot amongst, trying to help their partner sleep, and take the baby and do what they can. And, in the baby boomer generation, that didn't even happen, right? So that was just the woman's problem. And so I think that's changed. And I think that it's that next step. It's that step of getting them involved with, first of all, as Bilge mentioned, first of all, the decision of, do we want children?
Yeah.
Are you for children? Are you for, are we both for children? Are we both in on this? Because that is, I think, the biggest thing that needs to be agreed on, as opposed to, I'm really keen for children, but I'm not really, and so therefore the burden's going to be always on the person that's really keen, and if the other one's not, then you really question about making babies at that point, right? So yes, I'd love to share or find out your thoughts on how we bring this forward from getting the male involved earlier.
I think it's not only on men's side. Women also thinks it's expected from them to be the perfect mother, take care of their kids, Yeah, I'm going to carry this baby. It's my responsibility. Women also is not aware that men is part of the story sometimes, It starts with educating women too. So this book also tells, this is 50-50, the book we wrote together with Valerie, I'm Magic. It is showing us our bodies, women's body, but also men's body. What does it mean? What comes with the sperm quality? What comes with the egg quality? So I think there is a lot more education need to be done on the women's side as well, that they bring along the men. Not only men needs to hear this, but also women needs to hear this.
And I think you made a great point, like education. And I think that's, where we probably need to start as early as possible where appropriate. But we do learn about, well, in some places better and others not as much, but about the birds and the bees, latest when we're in our teens, but it's mostly about preventing pregnancies or STDs and things like that. But wouldn't it be fantastic if we learned why it's important that we know all of these things, and how, like, what it actually takes, all the magic, all the serendipity it takes to actually get pregnant, like to create new life, and that it can look different at different stages in life, because bodies evolve, they change, we are born, we go through puberty, there's so many hormones, but that doesn't stop once that's over. Like, there are changes throughout life, and so people understand that, like, what's going on, but then understand how to listen to their own bodies, how to take care of their own bodies, and start asking questions and reaching out to people, asking for help once they realize, something might be off. I might want some information. I might have something looked at or into, and then take ownership and accountability for their lives and their own choices at the right time for them. So that's also what our book is about. I don't know if that would be part of a school curriculum, but I think we need to start with education and creating awareness as early as possible.
So, I'd love you to share now, like, sort of walk the listener through the book, what they could expect from reading the book, how it help them and help them with fertility and raising children.
Shall I take it?
Do you want to take it?
Yeah. So the book is called I Am Magic, the ultimate fertility workbook for empowerment, choice, and self-love. We chose this name very purposefully, because if you read any fertility book today, either it's very medically written, so there are a lot of medical jargon, and you feel like you learned a lot, but then you're like, okay, so what? How does it apply to me? That's the question you end up with. Or you read such a book that is a memoir, like what was the case, my infertility case, and how I came to solve it, and it's one particular situation. We are individuals and our bodies are different, we react to our environment different, our genetics are different, so there's millions of different situations out there, and how can you solve your own problem as a single person or as a couple? So this book takes you through most important fertility concepts. What is it? It starts from what's the fertility, and it starts with how does it apply to me, and then takes you through what kind of changes you need to do to your body, to your environment, and to your mental health to stay healthy enough for a healthier reproductive organs. So it gives you action lists, and it doesn't take you to the, like, all the unnecessary parts of medical histories. It just gives you what you need and puts it in a format that's digestible, and it kind of holds your hand, hugs you along the way.
Yeah, it's really, that was really important to us, that it's practical and that people can, that they can take action, because that was really what was missing. And part of that is as well, educating people that, hey, now you've understood all the kind of health elements of all aspects. There's more, because this isn't for free. If you do go down the assisted reproductive technology route, there may be some legal constraints in the country that you live, and you may need to look at alternatives. So what could those be? But then also, we're aware there's so much out there. So we added some resources that we feel, could be a good starting point, whether that's a podcast or a feature film, documentary, a book. So we provide all of those things in the book as well, so people have a starting point that they can then decide what their path might look like.
And
where could the listen?
Sorry, and Valerie and I.
You go,
Sorry,
Bill.
Valerie and I are not medical people, right? I am a tech professional. Valerie is a communications professional and sustainability. So we come from different backgrounds, but we worked with experts, and all the information in the book comes out of research, and we just put it in a format, edited and wrote it with a nice language that is understandable, and it's all reviewed by experts. So we made sure that it's 100% accurate.
Yes.
Fantastic. And how can the listeners, viewers, where can they find the book?
So for now, it's available on Amazon worldwide, and we are working on how to extend the distribution. So we're also available in bookstores, and hopefully we'll sort that out in the next couple of weeks. So maybe by the time, or around the time the podcast comes out, we'll have some news to share on that.
Oh, fantastic. Well, to the listeners and viewers, I'll include the link, the Amazon link in the show notes, so you can go directly to the Amazon link. And how can the listeners, viewers best connect with both of you? Where can they find you?
Instagram.
On TikTok.
And TikTok.
Yes.
Instagram and TikTok. We're on TikTok because we want to reach the younger generation as well. This is a topic that needs to be started both by when we hit puberty, at least, So we are on Instagram and TikTok.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And what's the tag or what's the handle they'll find you on?
the.tinyp.
Okay, I'll definitely put that in the show notes so that the listeners can go directly to your Instagram and TikTok. And yes, Bilge and Valerie, you will appear on TikTok. I break this long form into short form, and it's shared far and wide, both on Instagram and TikTok. So I'll certainly tag you both in on the TikTok and Instagram so that you can also share it with your followers.
Amazing.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Awesome. And any concluding words of inspiration or words of hope for anyone out there that's struggling?
Yeah, so for me, I think I can put it in a nutshell, like know your body and to know your options. Yeah, we can expand on that a lot more, but for me, that's kind of the key message I would like to leave our listeners and viewers with.
For me, it's 50-50. Men needs to also know their body, not just wait women to take the lead. And now new researches are coming out that how semen is tied to actually preeclampsia, morning sickness when women is pregnant. So they really play a huge role in pregnancy, and they should learn about it.
And yeah, being a father, I totally agree that it's a beautiful journey to go on. And I fully encourage all men out there to get on board as early as possible and go along for the beautiful ride. The whole process is amazing. And, it's a lifelong journey, I think, once you start. Yeah. So, and I totally agree with you both. You both got to be 100% in and to really make it a success. So it's a full team effort.
Absolutely.
Sure is.
And so thank you so much, Bilge and Valerie. Really appreciate you putting aside the time, coming on the show and sharing your insights. To the listeners, please share it with others out there that you know that may find this of value. I really appreciate if you could get it out to them, because this is all about enhancing and enlightening the well-being of others. So if you know of anyone struggling with fertility, please share it with them. I'd love the message to get to them and the help also to get to them, and they can connect with the right people to take them along their journey. So thank you so much, everybody. And thank you once again, Bilge and Valerie.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anthony.
Podcast disclaimer. This podcast and any information, advice, opinions or statements within it do not constitute medical, healthcare or professional advice and are provided for general information purposes only. All care is taken in the preparation of the information in this podcast. Connected Wellness Proprietary Limited, operating under the brand me&my Health Up, does not make any representations or give any warranties about its accuracy, reliability, completeness, or suitability for any particular purpose. This podcast and any information, advice, opinions, or statements within it are not to be used as a substitute for professional, medical, psychological, psychiatric, or any other mental health care or healthcare in general. me&my Health Up recommends you seek the advice of a doctor or qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. Inform your doctor of any changes that you may to your lifestyle and discuss these with your doctor. Do not disregard medical advice or delay visiting a medical professional because of something you hear in this podcast. This podcast has been carefully prepared on the basis of current information. Changes in circumstances after publication may affect the accuracy of this information. To the maximum extent permitted by the law, me&my Health Up disclaims any such representations or warranties to the completeness, accuracy, merchantability, or fitness for purpose of this podcast and will not be liable for any expenses, losses, damages incurred, indirect or consequential damages or costs that may be incurred as a result of the information being inaccurate or incomplete in any way and for any reason. No part of this podcast can be reproduced, redistributed, published, copied, or duplicated in a form without prior permission of me&my Health Up.